Starseeker E55 Pro is the successor to the extremely popular E55 grinder, which was famous for its excellent price-to-quality ratio. It works great in both espresso and pour-over coffee. The E55 Pro features several improvements, and most importantly, its price hasn't changed significantly, currently offering the same or even lower prices than its predecessor. I tested this grinder for several weeks, primarily with espresso and milk-based coffees, using 2 different coffee beans. I must admit, I'm shocked. This grinder has completely changed my perspective on the coffee grinder market. Is this the best budget single-dose grinder on the market? A short unboxing video of the grinder is available on my channel. In addition to the grinder, the set includes accessories such as additional springs for the upper burr carrier, cleaning brush, power supply, dosing cup, RDT bottle, bellows with metal lid, alternative black coffee spout, and of course the user manual. The Starseeker E55 Pro with bellows measures 29 cm high, 19.5 cm long, and 9.5 cm wide, making it truly compact. Weighing in at 3.5 kilograms, it's very stable on a countertop, which isn't always the case with such inexpensive grinders. The grinder's weight, considering its price, underscores its excellent build quality. The vast majority of this grinder's construction is made of metal. The housing and dosing cup are aluminum. The coffee spout is made of transparent plastic, the bellows are made of rubber, and the bottom of the grinder also has anti-slip elements. On the right side, there is a button for turning the grinder on or off, and a laser-engraved manufacturer's logo. The button lights up when the grinder is on. A huge advantage is that the power cable isn't permanently attached. This is a typical single-dose grinder, meaning it's slightly tilted. This provides less retention. The grinder includes an anti-popcorn element that can be separated from the hopper. Of course, everything here is also made of aluminum. I've noticed that individual coffee beans tend to stick to the anti-popcorn element, but this rarely happens. Simply press the bellows harder to make the beans fall into the grinding chamber. The dosing cup has a diameter of 58 mm and fits into a standard 58 mm basket. It is magnetic and fits snugly into the base of the grinder. It's made of aluminum, although I would obviously prefer stainless steel. Using aluminum makes coffee grounds stick more easily, and in my opinion, makes it more difficult to clean. The Starseeker E55 Pro is equipped with 55mm 7-core stainless steel conical burrs, which in this model feature a titanium coating. This coating makes the burrs even more durable and resistant to damage. These burrs are great for both espresso and pour-over. I'll tell you more about that later in this review. The grind adjustment is stepless, allowing for several 360-degree rotations. The grinder can easily handle fine grinds for Turkish coffee or espresso, as well as coarse grinds for pour-over, French press, or cold brew. The adjustment is smooth and stable. It is difficult to accidentally change the grind level, as it happens to me in the DF64V, by using the bellows more forcefully. Zero level doesn't mean the burrs have the maximum contact point, but I don't see the point of recalibrating. Below zero, you get very finely ground coffee. The locking point is around level 65 below zero, which is where the adjustment can't be turned any further. I don't recommend running the grinder below zero. You could damage the burrs and even the motor itself if the burrs touch or become completely blocked while the motor is running. In the E55 Pro model, the manufacturer used a transparent, magnetic coffee spout in which the plasma generator is located. The purpose of this solution is to reduce the static charge of coffee grounds. While this works for the spout, static is still inevitable in the grinding chamber. Therefore, an RDT will always be necessary. The E55 Pro, according to the specifications, is equipped with a brushed DC motor with a power of 72 watts or 84 watts. The manufacturer can't decide in its infographics. The set includes a 24-volt 4-amp DC transformer, which, however, provides a higher power of 96 watts. The motor speed is constant at 312 RPM, according to the specifications. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the motor could be a bit more efficient. Grinding for espresso takes a considerable amount of time. However, this has one advantage: fewer small particles during grinding, as well as a lower temperature. The grinder is audible when turned on, but not very loud. It only becomes louder after the beans are poured in, but still slightly quieter than the DF64V. Hey, I put a lot of time and effort into creating content. You can easily support me by subscribing to the channel and liking this video. This will help my content reach more viewers. Thank you. The E55 Pro is a single-dose grinder with zero retention. This is due to its slightly tilted design, and a plasma generator is located inside the coffee spout. Of course, the bellows also play a significant role. Some particles remain in the grinding chamber, so their use is important. When using RDT, retention is literally zero. You can see this in the video: 18.1 grams in and 18.1 grams out. The situation changes when you don't use RDT. At that point, the loss is around 0.5 grams, which is typical for every grinder I've tested. I have noticed that using the bellows causes a mess around the grinder. Many coffee particles fall outside the dosing cup. I don't see this effect in my DF64V, so it's probably due to the shorter spout. I will be comparing the E55 Pro to my DF64V second generation with Hyper Burrs Espresso. For espresso, I use 18 grams of beans and aim for a 1:2 ratio. I always use the Ross droplet technique. The grind time for espresso with the E55 Pro is about 40 seconds. My DF64V is significantly faster. At 1100 RPM, it takes about 10 seconds. I've noticed that ground coffee from E55 Pro tends to contain coarser, lighter colored particles. However, I don't think this has any significant impact on the extraction itself. It also depends on the beans used. Extraction is similar for both grinders. I start with a low pressure pre-infusion, then increase the pressure to 9 bar, and then gradually decrease it to around 6 bar. The extraction time is approximately 33 seconds. The differences are really minor. Sometimes espresso tastes better with the E55 Pro, and sometimes with the DF64V. However, I've noticed that the body is always weaker in the E55 Pro, and the acidity is slightly higher. Both espressos are similarly balanced, although for higher acidity coffees I prefer the DF64V because it has slightly less acidity but slightly higher bitterness. I also think the E55 Pro sometimes gives more sweetness. Still, the differences are really minor, especially considering the price difference. I'm not a huge fan of pour-overs, but I wanted to see how this grinder performs. I use 15 grams of beans and aim for a 1:16 ratio and a time of about 3 minutes. I rotated the grinder adjustment about 360 degrees from my espresso setting. This has been recommended by many users of this grinder, and I have to say, it's a good recommendation. The grinding time for pour-over has been significantly reduced compared to espresso, to about 13 seconds. The grounds look quite even, definitely more so than my hand grinder that I have. This is also visible when brewing coffee. I'm not the best at pour-overs, but the coffee bed looks pretty good to me. How does this pour-over coffee taste? With these beans, it's better than espresso. It's balanced with a slight acidity, unlike espresso, which was too acidic for me with both grinders. Interestingly, with these same beans, the espresso-based milk coffees are phenomenal, really sweet, with toffee and cocoa flavors. I find the bigger differences are in the workflow itself. The grinder area can sometimes become noticeably messy, especially after using the bellows. However, the coffee spout is practically clean after multiple grinds, which is something I can't say about the DF64V. I also find the E55 Pro easier to clean than my DF64V. Please remember that each grinder differs in design and burrs, so don't consider these comparisons as a judgment on whether conical or flat burrs are better. I certainly deny that flat burrs are always better than conical ones. However, grinders with flat burrs are more versatile because you can swap burrs depending on your brewing method or preference. Cleaning the Starseeker E55 Pro is quite simple due to its conical burrs. First, I remove the coffee spout. I clean the grinder and components with a brush and a vacuum cleaner. I also use a blower to push out any particles. Then I remove the bellows and clean it under running water, then dry it with a cloth. Now I unscrew the hopper with the adjustment so that I can remove the top burr. I also clean this element with a brush. You can disassemble the anti-popcorn element for more thorough cleaning. Next, I remove the upper burr carrier and the metal components on it. Now I clean the lower burr and grinding chamber using a brush, vacuum cleaner and blower. Be careful not to lose the springs that secure the upper burr carrier. I've accidentally vacuumed them up a few times. After cleaning the lower burrs and grinding chamber, I also clean the upper burrs and the metal rotating elements. It's typical for conical burrs to have coffee particles stuck to the bottom of the upper burr. I remove them with a paper towel or cloth. After cleaning the inside of the grinder, I reassemble all the parts. Now I use a vacuum cleaner and a cloth to clean the grinder housing. It is recommended to clean the grinder housing more often. I do it every day. The Starseeker E55 Pro shows that you don't have to spend a fortune on a grinder to enjoy good coffee. This is a solid grinder with very good burrs and excellent results for both espresso and pour-over coffee. It's priced excellently. I bought it for around $195. I don't think you can find a better coffee grinder at this price. If you're looking for a single-dose grinder that's versatile and not too expensive, I can definitely recommend the E55 Pro. There are really only two things I would change: a brushless motor instead of a brushed one, and a slightly higher RPM, or the ability to adjust it. It's important to remember that it's still very inexpensive, so these were probably minor compromises to maintain its great price. Thank you for watching this video. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this grinder. Perhaps you have one too. Feel free to comment. See you in the next video.